Captain Jack Morrison stared at the impossible sight outside his ship's window. The stars had stopped moving. After 3 months of faster-than-light travel, the EFS Liberty finally came to rest in empty space far beyond Earth's solar system. This was humanity's first jump to the stars, and Jack felt the weight of history on his shoulders. "Sir, we're picking up something on long-range sensors," called out Lieutenant Kate Brown from her station. "It's big and it's coming this way." Jack turned to Dr. Lisa Rodriguez, Earth's top expert on what aliens might be like. She had spent years preparing for this moment, but now her face showed only worry. "What kind of readings are you getting?" "Energy. Signatures unlike anything we've seen," Kate replied. "The ship is at least 5 times larger than ours." The alien vessel appeared on their main screen minutes later. It looked like a crystal tower stretched into space, glowing with soft blue light, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Jack had expected many things, but not something so elegant. "Incoming transmission," announced Communications Officer Danny Walsh. "They're speaking to us." The voice that came through the speakers was clear and spoke perfect English. "Unknown vessel, you have entered Galactic Council space without permission. State your origin and purpose." Jack stepped forward, knowing that his next words would change everything for humanity. "This is Captain Jack Morrison of the Earth Federation ship Liberty. We come in peace from the planet Earth, seeking contact with other intelligent life." There was a long pause. Then the alien voice returned, and Jack could hear something like amusement in it. "Earth. We have no record of this world. You will follow us to Nexus Prime for evaluation. Do not attempt to leave or you will be destroyed." Dr. Rodriguez moved to Jack's side. "Captain, I recommend we comply. We need to learn about them before we make any decisions." The journey to Nexus Prime took 2 days. During that time, the alien ship, which called itself the Harmony of Thought, shared basic information about the galaxy. The Galactic Council ruled over 847 different species across thousands of worlds. They had maintained peace for over 3,000 years through careful management and control. Nexus Prime was unlike anything humans had imagined. The planet was covered in massive towers that reached into space, connected by bridges of light. Ships from hundreds of different species moved in perfect patterns around the world. Everything was organized, controlled, and peaceful. Ambassador Zithkar met them at the docking bay. He looked like a giant spider made of silver metal with 8 legs and multiple eyes that glowed green. Despite his frightening appearance, his voice was gentle and welcoming. "Greetings, humans of Earth. I am Ambassador Zithkar of the Arachnean Collective. I will guide you through the evaluation process." As they walked through the station, Dr. Rodriguez noticed something strange. The aliens they saw moved slowly and deliberately. There was no rushing, no arguments, no signs of stress or excitement. Even when different species interacted, everything seemed planned and rehearsed. "How long has the Council maintained peace?" she asked Zithkar. 3,412 standard years. The spider being replied proudly. "We learned, long ago, that conflict brings only suffering. All disputes are resolved through proper channels. All expansion is controlled. All species know their place in the greater harmony." Jack didn't like the sound of that. "And what happens to species that don't want to join this harmony?" Zithkar's multiple eyes focused on him. "All species want to join once they understand the benefits. Peace, protection, guidance. What more could any civilization desire?" The Grand Assembly Hall was enormous, filled with representatives from hundreds of species. Some looked almost human. Others were so alien that Jack couldn't tell which end was the head. All sat in perfect silence as High Counselor Prime, a being of pure energy contained in a crystal shell, spoke about humanity's future. "The species known as humans show promise." The Prime's voice echoed through the hall. "Their technology is primitive but functional. Their aggression levels are concerning but manageable. We offer them Level 3 membership in the Galactic Council." Dr. Rodriguez leaned forward. "What does Level 3 membership include?" "Protection from hostile forces, access to limited trade opportunities, and guidance in proper civilization development," replied the Prime. "In exchange, Earth will provide tribute of 30% of planetary resources and accept Council oversight of all technological advancement." No military expansion beyond your home system will be permitted. Jack felt his anger rising. And if we refuse? The hall fell completely silent. Even the gentle background hums of alien technology seemed to stop. High Counselor Prime's energy, form flickered brighter. Refusal is not recommended. Species that refuse council protection often face unfortunate circumstances. Pirates, hostile neighbors, equipment failures. The galaxy can be dangerous for those without proper guidance. Back on their ship, Jack called an emergency meeting with his senior staff. Dr. Rodriguez paced the small conference room, her face pale with worry. "They're not offering us membership," she said. "They're demanding surrender. 30% tribute, no military expansion, oversight of our technology. We'd become slaves." "But what choice do we have?" asked Lieutenant Brown. "Did you see their fleet? Thousands of ships, technology centuries ahead of ours. If we fight them, Earth dies." Jack looked at each of his officers. These were good people, trained for exploration and peaceful contact. None of them had signed up for war. But he knew what his answer had to be. "We send a message to Admiral Kane immediately. Tell him what we've learned. And then we give the Council our answer." The next day they returned to the assembly hall. High Counselor Prime waited for their response, confident in the outcome. After all, no species had ever refused Council protection. Once they understood the consequences. "We have considered your offer," Jack said, his voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. "Earth declines membership in the Galactic Council. We will return to our home system and make our own way, among the stars." The silence that followed was different from before. It felt shocked, almost scared. Several alien representatives began making excited noises in their native languages. High Counselor Prime's energy form flared bright red. "This is most unwise. Humans. The galaxy holds many dangers for the unprotected. We cannot guarantee your safety if you refuse our guidance." "We understand," Dr. Rodriguez replied. "We choose to face those dangers as free beings, rather than live safely as slaves." As the Liberty departed Nexus Prime, Jack received an encrypted message from Admiral Kane back on Earth. The Admiral had been busy during their absence. Earth's nations had finally united under a single government, and massive military construction projects were beginning across the solar system. "If they come for us," Kane's message read, "we'll be ready." They didn't have to wait long. 3 weeks after returning to Earth, long-range sensors detected a Council fleet approaching the outer colonies. 50 ships against humanity's handful of converted cargo vessels and mining platforms. The attack on New Plymouth Colony was meant to be a lesson. A quick strike to show Earth the cost of defying the Council. The alien fleet expected to find frightened colonists who would surrender immediately when faced with superior force. Instead, they found 50,000 humans who had spent 3 weeks turning their farming equipment into weapons and their homes into fortresses. The colonists had no military training and little hope of victory, but they had something the aliens had forgotten existed: the willingness to fight impossible odds rather than submit. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 12 alien ships were destroyed and the rest were retreating. New Plymouth was in ruins, but the colonists had won. As the alien commander's final transmission reached the Council fleet, his words carried a warning that would soon echo across the galaxy. "These humans refuse to surrender even when defeat is certain. They fight like demons and show no fear of death. What manner of species have we encountered?" Back on Nexus Prime, High Counselor Prime studied the battle reports with growing concern. In 3,000 years of peace, no species had ever chosen destruction over submission. The humans were different, and that difference might change everything. 6 months after the attack on New Plymouth, Earth was no longer the same world. General Maria Santos stood in the command center of the new Global Defense Headquarters, watching reports stream in from across the solar system. Every asteroid, mining station had been converted into a weapons platform. Every civilian shipyard now built warships. Every nation on Earth had committed their best people to the war effort. "General, the production numbers are in," reported Colonel Frank Davis, her chief of staff. "We now have over 200 armed vessels of various sizes." Not much compared to the Council's thousands, but it's a start. Maria nodded grimly. She had been a peacekeeping general before the aliens came, trained to prevent wars rather than fight them. Now she commanded humanity's entire military force, and every day brought new challenges she had never imagined. "What about Dr. Cooper's research team?" she asked. "They've made remarkable progress. The wreckage from New Plymouth gave us enough alien technology to work with. Cooper says they'll have the first prototype weapons ready for testing next week." Dr. Alan Cooper was perhaps the most important man on Earth now. His team of scientists had been studying the alien technology recovered from the destroyed Council ships. But instead of simply copying what they found, Cooper had done something typically human. He had made it better. The aliens build their weapons for reliability and long service, Cooper explained to Maria during their daily briefing. They're designed to work for centuries without maintenance, but that makes them heavy and slow to respond. We've redesigned them for maximum efficiency and quick adaptation. "What does that mean in simple terms?" Maria asked. "Our weapons will hit harder, fire faster, and use less power than theirs. The trade-off is they won't last as long, but we can replace them quickly. Quality through quantity, not quantity through quality." Meanwhile, Captain Ryan Phillips was testing humanity's first purpose-built warship. The EFS Defiance was small compared to Council vessels, but it incorporated everything humans had learned about space combat. It could turn faster, accelerate, quicker, and change direction in ways that alien ships couldn't match. "The key is thinking in 3 dimensions, Phillips explained to his crew during training exercises. "The aliens fight like they're still on the surface of a planet, with clear formations and predictable movements. But space has no up or down, no front or back. We can attack from any angle, at any time." His weapons officer, Lieutenant Amy Clark, was enthusiastic about their new capabilities. "The alien ships are built like fortresses, sir. Strong but slow. We're built like fighters. We hit hard and fast, then get out before they can respond." The Council's response to humanity's military buildup was swift and predictable. High Counselor, Prime called an emergency session of the full assembly. The chamber that had been so quiet during humanity's first visit now buzzed with worried conversations in dozens of languages. "The humans have rejected our protection and now threaten galactic peace," the Prime announced. "Their military expansion must be stopped before it spreads to other systems. We will send a police force to contain this threat." High Counselor Vex Thon, a being made of living crystal, rose to speak. As the Council's chief military strategist, his words carried great weight. "The humans are few in number and technologically inferior. A show of force should be sufficient to end their resistance. I recommend 200 ships to blockade their home system," the other Council members agreed. After all, no species had ever continued fighting after seeing the full power of a Council fleet. The humans would surely surrender when faced with such overwhelming force. But Vexthan had made a crucial mistake. He had studied the battle at New Plymouth and focused on the wrong details. He saw that the humans had inferior weapons and fewer ships. He counted their losses and noted their tactical mistakes. What he failed to understand was why the humans had fought at all. Admiral Peter Kane watched the approaching Council fleet from his command ship orbiting Earth. 200 alien vessels moving in perfect formation, their crystal hulls gleaming in the light of distant stars. It was the most beautiful and terrifying sight he had ever witnessed. "Sir, they're requesting communication," reported his communications officer. "Put them through." The alien voice was calm and confident. "Human vessels, you are surrounded and outnumbered. Surrender now and return to your planet. The Council offers one final chance for peaceful resolution." Kane looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These were men and women who had volunteered to stand between Earth and destruction. They knew the odds, but they were here anyway. "Council fleet, this is Admiral Kane of the Earth Defense Force. We decline your offer. Earth will defend itself." The alien commander seemed genuinely surprised. "Admiral, you have perhaps 50 ships against our 200. Your defeat is mathematically certain. Why do you choose destruction over surrender?" Kane smiled grimly. "Because we're human, and humans don't surrender." The Battle of Luna began at 800 Earth Standard Time. The Council fleet moved in their traditional formation, with heavy cruisers in the center and smaller ships protecting the flanks. They advanced slowly and deliberately, expecting the humans to either flee or attempt a desperate frontal assault. Instead, Captain Phillips led the EFS Defiance and 12 other human ships in a completely unexpected maneuver. They dove toward the moon's surface using the satellite's gravity to slingshot around its far side. When they emerged, they were behind the Council formation and moving at incredible speed. All ships, target their rear elements, Phillips commanded. Hit them fast and hard, then scatter before they can respond. The human ships struck like a swarm of angry wasps. Their new weapons tore through alien shields that had been designed to stop traditional energy beams. The modified projectile weapons that Dr. Cooper's team had developed punched through crystal hulls that had never been penetrated before. In the first 30 seconds of combat, 6 Council ships were destroyed. The remaining alien vessels tried to turn to face this new threat, but their formations were too rigid and their ships too slow. By the time they had repositioned, the human ships had already changed direction again. "They're using the asteroid field," reported Lieutenant Clark from the Defiance's sensor station. "Brilliant. The aliens can't follow us in there with their big ships." Phillips grinned as he guided his ship between 2 massive chunks of rock. "That's the plan. We're not fighting their kind of battle. We're fighting ours." The battle raged for 6 hours. The human ships used every advantage they could find. They hid behind asteroids and struck from unexpected angles. They used debris as weapons, ramming alien ships with chunks of destroyed vessels. They even used the moon's gravity to accelerate their attacks and slow their retreats. High Counselor Vexithan watched the battle from his flagship with growing amazement and horror. His perfectly organized fleet was being torn apart by a handful of primitive vessels that refused to fight according to established rules. "They're not following any known tactical doctrine," he reported to his staff. "They adapt their strategy, in real time, turning every disadvantage into an advantage. When we destroy one of their ships, the debris becomes a weapon. When we corner them, they use our own formations against us." "Sir, we've lost 18 ships," reported his tactical officer. "The humans have lost only 4. Vexithan made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his long life. "All ships withdraw to safe distance. We need to reconsider our approach." As the Council fleet retreated, Captain Phillips received new orders from Admiral Kane. The human ships were to fall back to Earth's outer defenses. They had achieved something impossible. They had defeated a Council fleet in open battle. But the victory came at a cost. Phillips looked at his crew, exhausted from hours of combat. His ship was damaged, and several of his friends would not be returning home. Yet there was something in their eyes that had not been there before. Pride, confidence, the knowledge that they could fight the aliens and win. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Council fleet," reported his communications. Officer Phillips nodded. "Let's hear what they have to say." High Counselor Vexithan's voice was different now. The confidence was gone, replaced by something like fear. "Human vessels, you have fought well, but this is only the beginning. The Council has resources beyond your imagination. This war will not end well for your species." Phillips keyed his response. "Counselor, we understand the odds, we know what we're facing, but we also know something you don't. And what is that, human? We know that freedom is worth fighting for, even against impossible odds. And we know that we're not alone. Every human in this system, on every world, on every ship, believes in that freedom. You can't defeat an idea with superior firepower." The transmission ended, and the alien fleet jumped to hyperspace. But the Battle of Luna had changed everything. For the first time in over 1,000 years, the Galactic Council had been defeated in open combat. On Nexus Prime, emergency sessions were called. The Council members who had been so confident in their military superiority now faced a terrifying reality. The humans were not just different, they were dangerous. They fought with a passion and creativity that the galaxy had not seen in millennia. High Counselor Prime addressed the assembly with words that would echo through history. 2 years had passed since the Battle of Luna, and the galaxy was no longer the same place. Colonel Sarah Mitchell crouched in the dark corridor of the Council supply ship, her team of human shock troops moving silently behind her. The aliens had learned to fear these boarding operations, but they still couldn't stop them. "Target bridge is 50 meters ahead," whispered Sergeant Mike Johnson through her helmet communicator. "Guards are posted, but they look nervous." Sarah smiled grimly. The aliens had good reason to be nervous. Human boarding tactics were unlike anything the Council had faced before. While alien species fought for territory or resources, humans fought for something much more dangerous. They fought for ideas. "Remember, we're not here to kill everyone," Sarah reminded her team. "We take the ship, capture the crew, and send another message. Fear is more valuable than destruction." The assault took less than 10 minutes. The alien crew, a mix of insect-like beings and crystalline entities, surrendered as soon as they realized they were facing humans. Word had spread throughout Council space about what happened to ships that resisted human boarding parties. Meanwhile, light years away, Commander Ben Taylor guided his stealth ship through the shadows between stars. The EFS Ghost was humanity's most advanced vessel, designed specifically for the kind of warfare that was driving the Council to desperation. "Sir, we're approaching the communications relay," reported his navigator, Lieutenant Carol White. "No sign of patrol ships in the area," Taylor nodded. The Council had tried to adapt to human tactics by increasing patrols and strengthening defenses, but they were always one step behind. While they focused on protecting their military assets, humans targeted their communication networks and supply lines. "Take us in. Time to make another Council system go dark." The destruction of the relay station took only minutes, but its effects would last for weeks. 12 Council worlds would lose contact with their central command, creating confusion and fear that would spread faster than any human fleet. Back on Earth, Professor Emma Davis studied psychological profiles of dozens of alien species. Her work had become crucial to humanity's war effort, not because she understood how to kill aliens, but because she understood how to make them afraid. "The key insight," she explained to General Santos during their weekly briefing, "is that most Council species have been peaceful for so long that they've forgotten how to handle real fear. They've been protected by the Council for centuries, so they never had to develop the psychological tools to deal with genuine threats." Santos reviewed the latest intelligence reports from across Council space. "Your broadcasts are working better than we hoped. 3 more species have withdrawn their ships from active duty, and the crystalline hegemony is refusing to send reinforcements to the front lines." Emma's psychological warfare campaign was perhaps the most effective weapon in humanity's arsenal. Her broadcast didn't threaten alien worlds or demand surrender. Instead, they asked simple questions that the Council couldn't answer. "Why do you fight for leaders who demand tribute but offer no real protection?" Her latest broadcast had asked. "Why do you send your children to die for a Council that sees you as numbers rather than people? Why do you accept limitations on your growth and development when you could reach for the stars?" The questions were spreading doubt throughout Council space, turning allies against each other and making species question their place in the galactic order. The Council's response was to recall their greatest military leader from retirement. War Prime Kethmore had not commanded a fleet in over 500 years, but his reputation was legendary. He had ended the last great galactic war through superior strategy and ruthless efficiency. Kethmore was a being of pure energy, like High Counselor, Prime. But where the Prime was diplomatic and cautious, the War Prime was direct and aggressive. He studied the human tactics with the intensity of someone who understood that his entire civilization was at stake. "The humans are not fighting a war," he told his assembled fleet commanders. "They are conducting a revolution. Every battle they win, every ship they capture, every broadcast they make is designed to spread their ideology of independence and self-determination." His tactical officer, a multi-armed creature from the hegemony worlds, asked the obvious question, "How do we fight an ideology, War Prime?" "By proving it wrong," Kethmore replied. "We will demonstrate that human independence leads only to destruction. We will create a situation where their refusal to surrender results in such terrible losses that even they will be forced to submit." The trap was set at Kepler Station, a major trading hub near the edge of Council space. Kethamore leaked intelligence suggesting that the station was lightly defended and contained valuable military supplies. He knew that the humans couldn't resist such a target, especially one that would disrupt Council trade routes. Captain Ryan Phillips, now commanding a small fleet of human ships, took the bait exactly as Kethamore had predicted. The Defiance and 8 other vessels jumped into the Kepler system expecting to find a few patrol ships and minimal defenses. Instead, they found 300 Council warships waiting in perfect formation around the station. "Sir, we're completely surrounded," reported Lieutenant Clark from her sensor station. "They must have known we were coming." Phillips studied the tactical display with growing admiration and dread. The alien fleet was positioned to prevent any escape route. Every angle of attack was covered. Every possible maneuver had been anticipated. For the first time since the war began, the humans were truly trapped. "Communications from the Council fleet, sir," reported his communications officer. War Prime Kethamore's voice filled the bridge. "Captain Phillips, I am War Prime Kethamore of the Galactic Council. Your reputation precedes you. You have fought well, but now you face a situation where even human stubbornness cannot save you." Phillips keyed his response. "War Prime, I've heard of you too. Congratulations on setting a perfect trap. What are your terms?" "Surrender your fleet and submit to Council authority. Your crews will be treated well, and your worlds will be spared further destruction. Continue to resist, and I will demonstrate why the Council has maintained peace for millennia." Phillips looked around his bridge at his crew. These were people who had followed him through 2 years of impossible battles. They had trusted him to find a way out of every dangerous situation. Now he was about to ask them to trust him in something that looked like certain death. "War Prime, I need to discuss this with my people." "You have 1 hour, Captain." The meeting in the Defiance's conference room was unlike any military planning session in human history. Phillips laid out the situation with brutal honesty. They were outnumbered 30-1, surrounded on all sides, and facing the Council's best military commander. "We have 3 choices," he told his senior officers. "We can surrender and hope the aliens keep their word. We can try to fight our way out and probably die in the attempt, or we can do something else." "Something else?" asked Lieutenant Clark. Phillips smiled, but there was no humor in it. "We can make sure that War Prime Kethamore learns the most important lesson about humanity. We never surrender, even when surrender is the smart choice." The plan was insane, but it was also perfectly human. If they couldn't escape and they couldn't win, they would make their defeat so costly that it would terrify every alien in the galaxy. "We're going to ram the station," Phillips announced. "All ships, maximum speed, direct course. If we're going to die today, we're taking as many of them with us as possible." The charge of the human fleet toward Kepler Station became one of the most famous battles in galactic history. 8 small ships against 300 larger ones, with no hope of victory and no chance of survival. The aliens expected the humans to break at the last moment, to swerve away or surrender rather than commit suicide. Instead, the human ships accelerated harder, pushing their engines beyond safe limits. They fired every weapon they had, not at the alien ships but at the station itself. Their goal was not to escape but to create the largest explosion possible. War Prime Kethamore watched in horror as his perfect trap became a nightmare. The humans were not trying to win or escape. They were trying to die in a way that would hurt the Council as much as possible. "All ships, fall back," he ordered. "They're going to detonate the station's power core." But it was too late. The combined impact of 8 human ships traveling at maximum velocity, striking a station loaded with military supplies and powered by antimatter reactors, created an explosion that could be seen from 3 star systems away. When the light faded, Kepler Station was gone. So were the 8 human ships and their crews. But also gone were 47 Council vessels that had been too close to the blast, including 2 of Kethamore's command ships. The War Prime stared at the empty space where the station had been, trying to understand what he had just witnessed. In his 500 years of military service, he had never seen anything like it. An enemy that chose mutual destruction over defeat. His communications officer, one of the few survivors from the destroyed command ships, delivered a report that would change everything. "War Prime, we're receiving transmissions from across Council. Space. News of the battle is spreading. Some species are calling the humans heroes. Others are demanding to know why the Council couldn't protect the station. 5 years of war had changed everything. Admiral Patricia Adams stood on the bridge of humanity's newest flagship, the EFS Liberty's Revenge, watching the final approach to Zerion Prime. This was the Council's military academy world, where they trained their best officers and kept their most advanced weapons. Taking it would be more than a victory. It would be a statement that nowhere in Council space was safe from human forces. "Admiral, all fleet elements report ready," said Captain Luke Harrison, her tactical commander. Harrison had started the war as a merchant marine captain, running cargo between Earth's colonies. Now he commanded the largest human battle fleet ever assembled. "Intelligence reports are confirmed," Adams replied, studying the tactical display. "Zerion Prime has the strongest defenses in Council space outside of Nexus Prime itself. If we can take it, we prove that the Council cannot protect even their most important worlds." The fleet that approached Zerion was unlike anything humanity had fielded before. 200 ships of various sizes, all built with 5 years of hard-won experience. They moved in loose formations that could adapt instantly to changing conditions, each captain trained to think independently and act without orders. Dr. Kevin Roberts worked frantically in his laboratory aboard the medical ship Hope, analyzing samples from the latest batch of captured aliens. His discovery 3 months ago had changed everything humanity thought they knew about their enemies. "The genetic modifications are extensive," he explained to Adams during their secure communication link. "Most Council species have been altered over thousands of years to reduce aggression, increase compliance, and enhance cooperative behavior. They're literally incapable of the sustained violence that comes naturally to humans." Adams frowned as she reviewed his data. "Are you saying they're not fully sentient?" "No, they're intelligent and self-aware. But they've been bred to be followers rather than leaders, workers rather than warriors. The Council didn't conquer the galaxy through military might. They conquered it through genetic engineering and cultural conditioning. This revelation had spread through human command like wildfire. The aliens weren't just different culturally or technologically. They had been deliberately changed to make them easier to control. It explained why human tactics were so effective, and why alien morale crumbled so quickly under pressure. The attack on Zerion Prime began at dawn, local time. Captain Harrison led the assault with his converted freighter-turned-battleship, the Earthborn Pride. His ship was ugly, patched together from spare parts and salvaged alien technology, but it had one advantage the sleek Council vessels lacked. It was built by people who expected to fight for their lives. "All ships remember the plan," Harrison broadcast to his fleet. "We're not here to destroy their academy. We're here to capture it. Every alien officer we take alive is worth 10 dead ones." The orbital defenses of Zerion Prime were impressive. Energy shields that could stop any known weapon, automated turrets with perfect targeting systems, and patrol ships that moved in flawless coordination. But they were designed to stop traditional attacks, not the chaotic swarm tactics that humans had perfected. Harrison's ships came from every direction at once, using the planet's 3 moons as cover and launching from behind asteroid fields. When the defensive systems tried to track them, the human ships split up and reformed in new patterns. When the automated turrets locked onto targets, those ships would disappear behind debris, while others emerged from unexpected angles. "Sir, their command structure is breaking down," reported Lieutenant Tony Martinez from the sensor station. "The alien commanders are trying to coordinate too many defensive elements at once. They can't adapt fast enough to our attack pattern." Within hours, the orbital defenses were overwhelmed. Human boarding parties swarmed onto the defense platforms while the main fleet descended toward the planet's surface. The Academy's ground defenses were equally impressive and equally useless against opponents who refused to fight by established rules. The alien cadets and instructors at the Academy had never seen real combat. They had studied war theoretically, learning about formations and tactics that had been successful thousands of years ago. When human soldiers came crashing through their walls using explosive charges and improvised weapons, the aliens simply didn't know how to respond. Colonel Sarah Mitchell led the ground assault personally, her shock troops moving through the Academy. Buildings like a force of nature, but she had strict orders. No unnecessary killing, no destruction of valuable equipment, and most importantly, capture as many alien officers as possible. The future leaders of Council military forces are in these buildings, she told her troops. Everyone we capture is a future war we won't have to fight. The battle for the Academy lasted only 6 hours. When it ended, humanity had captured the most advanced military training facility in known space, along with 50,000 alien cadets and instructors. But the real victory was psychological. News of Xerion Prime's fall spread through Council space, faster than any physical attack could travel. The Academy had been a symbol of Council military superiority for over 1,000 years. If humans could take it, then nowhere was safe. The Council's response was immediate and desperate. They activated their ultimate weapon, a species that had never been defeated in open combat. The collective was a hive mind that controlled 1/3 of all Council military forces. They thought as one, moved as one, and fought with perfect coordination. Theo, Collective's High Note issued a simple statement. The human infection will be cleansed from the galaxy. Resistance is futile when faced with perfect unity. Their fleet was massive beyond anything humans had faced before. 3,000 ships moving in perfect formation, each vessel controlled by a single overriding intelligence. No confusion, no hesitation, no individual initiative to create weaknesses. Admiral Adams received the intelligence reports about the approaching collective fleet with grim determination. They're right about one thing, she told her staff. We can't beat them in a straight fight. 3,000 ships against our 200 means we need a different approach. What do you have in mind, Admiral? Asked Captain Harrison. We're going to do what humans do best. We're going to cheat. The plan was audacious even by human standards. Instead of meeting the collective fleet in open space, Adams would let them come to her. She positioned her forces around the debris field left from a previous battle, using the wreckage to hide her ship's signatures. But the real genius of the plan involved Staff Sergeant Nicole Clark, a demolitions expert who had volunteered for the most dangerous mission in human history. While the collective fleet was distracted by the main battle, Clark would infiltrate their home world and strike at the heart of their hive mind. The intelligence suggests that the collective is controlled by 3 central nodes on their homeworld, Adams explained during the mission briefing. If we can disrupt those nodes, their entire fleet becomes helpless. Clark studied the mission parameters with the calm focus of someone who knew she was volunteering to die. Admiral, getting to their homeworld is possible. Getting inside their main facility is difficult but doable. Getting out alive is probably impossible. I know, Sergeant, but if you succeed, you'll save millions of human lives and end this war. Clark nodded. Then I'll succeed, ma'am. The battle began when the collective fleet reached the debris field. Their sensors could detect the general area where human ships were hiding, but the overlapping signals from thousands of pieces of wreckage made precise targeting impossible. The collective's response was typically efficient. They began systematically destroying every piece of debris large enough to hide a ship. It was a slow process, but it would eventually expose all of Adams' hidden vessels. All ships, wait for my signal, Adams broadcast. Let them get close enough to taste victory. When half the debris field had been cleared, Adams gave the order to attack. 200 human ships emerged from their hiding places simultaneously, striking at the collective fleet from point-blank range. The alien vessels, caught off guard by the sudden assault, tried to reform their perfect formations. But something unexpected happened. The individual collective ships, trained to operate as part of a unified whole, struggled to adapt when their formation was broken. They kept trying to restore their original pattern, even as human ships tore through their ranks. Sir, they're actually more vulnerable when their formation is disrupted, reported Harrison from his ship. They can't function independently the way we can. Meanwhile, Nicole Clark was infiltrating the collective homeworld. The planet was a technological marvel, with cities that functioned like single organisms and transportation systems that moved beings like blood through veins. But it was also sterile and predictable, designed for perfect efficiency rather than security. Clark made her way through the underground tunnels that connected the 3 central nodes. Her mission was simple in concept, but incredibly dangerous in execution. Plant explosive charges at each node and detonate them simultaneously, severing the connections that allowed the collective to function as one mind. The first node was in a chamber deep beneath the planet's surface, surrounded by crystalline structures that pulsed with energy. 10 years had passed since Captain Jack Morrison first encountered the Galactic Council. Now President Jonathan Hayes stood in the same assembly hall on Nexus Prime, but everything had changed. The seats that once held representatives from 847 species now sat mostly empty. Of those who remained, most looked to humanity for leadership rather than the crumbling council. The question before us today is simple. Hayes addressed the gathered aliens and humans. What kind of galaxy do we want to build from the ashes of the old one? Fleet Admiral Charles Morgan watched from the observation deck, his weathered face showing the strain of commanding the largest military force in known space. 10,000 human ships now patrolled systems that had once seemed impossibly distant from Earth. Every day brought new requests for protection, new pleas for human intervention in conflicts that the Council could no longer handle. Mr. President, Morgan had argued during their private meeting that morning, we have the power to impose lasting peace. Our fleets are unopposed, our technology is superior, and our tactics remain unmatched. We could rule this galaxy and prevent any future wars. Hayes had listened carefully to his admiral's arguments. They made sense from a military perspective. Humanity had won the right to dictate terms through superior force. But the president remembered the words that had started this whole conflict. The Council's demand for Earth submission in exchange for protection. Admiral, if we become the new Council, what makes us better than the old one? Below in the assembly hall, Ambassador Rachel Stone was working to build something that had never existed before in galactic history. A true alliance of equals, where each species contributed according to their abilities and received protection based on their needs rather than their tribute payments. The Terran Federation proposes a new model of galactic governance, Stone announced to the assembly. Not rule by the strongest, but cooperation between the free. Each world maintains its sovereignty, each species preserves its culture, and each individual has the right to determine their own destiny. The alien representatives listened with a mixture of hope and fear. Many had spent their entire lives under council rule, accepting limitations on their development in exchange for peace and stability. The human concept of freedom was as alien to them as their submission had been to humanity. Elder Yithkal rose slowly from his seat near the back of the hall. He was ancient even by the standards of his long-lived species, one of the few beings still alive who remembered the galaxy before the Council's rise to power. His voice was weak with age but carried the weight of millennia. Young humans, he began, his words translated into dozens of languages simultaneously. You offer us something we have not known for 3,000 years. The right to choose our own path among the stars. But with that right comes responsibility. Are you prepared for what that freedom might unleash? President Hayes stepped forward. Elder Yithkal, we know that freedom can be dangerous, but we've learned that the alternative is worse. The Council's peace was built on suppression and control. Real peace must be built on mutual respect and voluntary cooperation. The old beings' eyes focused on Hayes with surprising intensity. I was there when the Council was first formed, human leader. The galaxy was torn apart by constant warfare. Species fought each other to extinction. Entire star systems were destroyed in conflicts that served no purpose beyond the desire to dominate. Yithkal activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy as it had been millennia ago. Vast fleets of warships moved between systems, leaving trails of destruction in their wake. The space between stars was filled with debris from countless battles. We created the Council to end this cycle of violence, the Elder continued. We traded freedom for stability, independence for survival, and it worked for a time. But you humans have shown us that such peace is only an illusion. True, strength comes not from suppressing the warrior spirit, but from channeling it toward worthy goals. Hayes nodded respectfully. Elder, we don't claim to have all the answers, but we're willing to work with anyone who wants to build something better than what came before. The assembly was interrupted by urgent communications from Admiral Morgan's flagship. Long-range sensors had detected something that changed everything. A massive fleet was approaching from outside the galaxy, using technology that surpassed even human innovations. "Mr. President," Morgan's voice carried clearly through the communication system, "we're looking at approximately 500 ships of unknown design. They're moving faster than anything we've seen, and their energy signatures don't match any known species." Elder Yithkal's expression changed from hope to terror. His ancient hands trembled as he accessed his people's oldest historical records. "It cannot be," he whispered. "They were supposed to be gone forever." "Elder, what are you talking about?" Hayes demanded. "The Devourers," Yithkal replied, his voice barely audible. "The reason we fled to this galaxy in the first place. They consume entire civilizations, turning their technology and knowledge against other species. We thought we had escaped them, but it seems they have finally found us." The alien fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the galaxy. Their ships dark and angular, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. When they transmitted their message, it came in the languages of dozens of extinct species, a chilling reminder of their previous conquests. "Inhabitants of this galaxy," the transmission began, "you have grown soft and weak under your false peace. Your civilizations will be harvested, your knowledge consumed, your resistance futile. Prepare for integration into the collective of the devoured." Admiral Morgan's response was immediate and decisive. "All human fleets, battle stations, unknown vessels, you are trespassing in sovereign space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The lead Devourer ship's reply came in the form of a devastating energy beam that vaporized one of humanity's patrol vessels instantly. The aliens had made their intentions clear. President Hayes faced the most important decision in human history. The aliens who had recently been enemies were now looking to humanity for salvation. The council that had tried to enslave Earth was begging for human protection. "Admiral Morgan, prepare our fleets for combat," Hayes ordered. "But this isn't just about defending human space anymore. We're fighting for the right of every species in this galaxy to exist freely." "Sir, are you sure about this?" Morgan asked. "These aren't our people. Many of these species tried to destroy us just years ago." Hayes looked out at the assembly hall, where aliens and humans were working together to coordinate their defense. "Admiral, they're not just our former enemies anymore. They're our neighbors. And humans don't abandon their neighbors when trouble comes calling." The battle for the galaxy began at the edge of human space, where the fastest ships from both sides met in the darkness between stars. The Devourers fought with technology stolen from 1,000 conquered civilizations, but they had never faced an opponent like humanity. Captain Luke Harrison, now commanding the massive battleship Defiance II, led the first engagement. His ship was supported by vessels from a dozen different species, all working under human tactical coordination. "All ships, remember what we've learned," Harrison broadcast to the mixed fleet. "The Devourers expect us to fight like the civilizations they've conquered before. Rigid formations, predictable tactics, surrender when faced with superior force. They've never fought anyone who refuses to follow the rules." The human fleet struck with the same innovative tactics that had defeated the Council, but now they were supported by alien ships that had learned to think like humans, crystalline vessels that could shift their structure mid-battle, energy beings that could pass through solid matter, insectoid fighters that moved in patterns no computer could predict. The Devourers found themselves facing something they had never encountered before, a truly unified force that combined the strengths of hundreds of species under the tactical leadership of a race that had never learned to accept defeat. "Sir, the enemy formation is breaking," reported Harrison's tactical officer. "They're trying to retreat, but our alien allies are cutting off their escape routes. The first Devourer fleet was destroyed, but everyone knew it was only the beginning." Elder Yithkal's record spoke of Devourer armadas that numbered in the millions, capable of consuming entire galaxies. President Hayes addressed the galaxy from the rebuilt council chambers, his words carried to every inhabited world. "Citizens, Of the galaxy, we face a threat that seeks to destroy everything we hold dear. Not just our worlds or our resources, but our right to exist as free beings. This is not humanity's fight alone. This is a fight for the survival of civilization itself. The response was overwhelming. Species that had hidden from the Council's wars now volunteered their ships and soldiers. Worlds that had never known conflict began building weapons. The galaxy that had been divided by the Council's rigid hierarchy was now united by a common threat and a shared commitment to freedom. Ambassador Stone worked tirelessly to coordinate the war effort, bringing together military commanders who had been enemies just months before. "The beautiful thing," she told Hayes during one of their strategy sessions, "is that we're not just fighting together. We're learning from each other.